show is sponsored by HiveMind CRM. It is more than just a CRM. It is a real estate and business mastermind that comes with an all-in-one CRM. You can have unlimited websites and users. You can call, text, RVM, and email all in one user interface. And you can set up custom automations for any type and multiple businesses. 65% of companies start using a CRM system within the first 5 years of business. Once implemented, the HiveMind will save you on marketing, give you more time, and make more money. One of our users had his first $100,000 month using our system in June. We want to see you automate and accelerate your business. Text us at 210-972-1842 for future meetings, and of course to get our $1 course on how to make more than 6 figures on one land deal. You can schedule your free demo today at hivemindcrm.io.
Welcome to today's show. We have a special guest, Logan Fullmer. Little quick intro to Logan Fullmer. He does over 200 transactions annually, and he has set to close $7.5 million in deals this month. So he's doing some crazy numbers and some crazy business. So if you guys have any questions, this is live right now. And we're going to bring up some questions later on, but just want to do a brief introduction on Logan Fullmer. I have here today Anthony Gaona and Logan Fullmer today. So one of the first things I love asking when we do this interviews is, how did you end up in real estate? Because I know you're oil field. So like, How did you end up in real estate? We don't want to go too deep into it, but that's always a good question.
Well, so my mom was a realtor when I was growing up. And my dad was a CPA. So he'd always talk to me about finances, about people making money. And my mom's always talking about real estate. So it was kind of neat. The money stuff and the real estate, they're all there in the household. Made sense to me. That's how people make money. So I got in the oil business and I was working and saving and started buying little pieces of real estate. I thought, man, I'm going to go for broke here. And, didn't go broke.
When did you start real estate though?
So I've been in about 10 years. So 2012 is when I really started getting into it. I got a couple of rent houses at that time. I did a couple of flips. I realized I did the flips first. I did a couple of flips on my brother, and we did good. We bought a $50,000 house. Or no, let's see, we paid like $35,000, put 15 in repairs, and sold it for like $70,000. We made like $20,000 on this a long time ago. We did another one, we did okay. After we did a couple of them, we did all right, but we realized we were undercapitalized, man. And we didn't have a ton of experience either. I was like nervous. We needed more money to do these deals, in our opinion, at that point. So then I went to the oil field. And that's where I made the money. And then I started kind of easing back into it.
That's cool, man. I didn't know that you were actually in real estate before you went to the oil field. I never knew that.
I had like 3 or 4 houses. If that counts as in real estate, that counts. So my dad got sick. I was living with him, trying to take care of him and help him and stuff. And I was like, let's do these deals. And it was a try. I don't know that I'd say I was in real estate. I did a couple.
Yeah. It counts better than in my book. I have that construction background with like 0 real estate. So yeah, I'm still the new kid, still looking around like, what the hell's going on here?
Right.
Dude.
Right,
so if anybody doesn't know, I did my very first deal with Logan and Ryan. I just posted online, and I posted in Roughneck to Real Estate. Shout out to Corey, Roughneck Group. And Ryan's like, hey, I want to buy that deal that you posted in that group. Can you go back and delete it? And I'm like, huh? Okay, whatever. I'm brand new, month in. I'm like, all right, delete the sucker. The guy said he's going to buy it. I believe him. So, I've learned a lot from you guys, obviously. Lots of trust there. Usually, like, anything they tell me to do, I'm just like, yeah, I'm just going to do it. It served me well. So, Logan has a good name in the game. So, yeah, man, we're excited to do this interview. So, tell us, how do you go from, just easing back into closing $7 million in a month? Like, what does that look like? What's the transition like? See if we can fast forward a little bit to kind of get to the meat and potatoes of it.
Man, yeah, it's interesting, man. I thought about this a little bit more in the last couple of years because the way I've been running this business has just looked different. So I got to think of consistent themes kind of that remain throughout this process. And I was always looking for a little bit better deal, a little bit smarter way to do business, a way to get a little bit better return on the investment. And I always had the constraints of what the capital that I had or the knowledge I had at the time. So all of the time, capital would expand because I would heavily reinvest or save, and knowledge would expand. Just so as each of those expanded, we just kept stretching and stretching right at the edge of where those were. So it started out really buying some vacant land on the east side of San Antonio, and then I started buying some foreclosures. Those were great. You could buy them, either do a remodel and sell it, or you could literally, there are a lot of times I bought it, just put a for sale sign in the yard the next day and sold them and made good money without doing construction. Sometimes they even change the locks, dude. It's nuts.
Yeah.
So I like those deals. But from there, it started to get harder because you couldn't get the foreclosure deals anymore. So I'm thinking, dude, what do I do now? I still need to find good deals. And I've done a couple that were trouble deals, just had lots of owners, title problems, just code liens, all kinds of crap. And I remember looking back at the end of, I think it was 2017, maybe. The market started to get a little bit hotter at this point. I was looking at it saying, God, where did I get my best deals? And I remember looking at the ones that were all complete messes. And I remember those all had the biggest spread. So I thought, okay, I think we should try to focus on these. And at that point, I started telling people, I want the messy ones. I want the troubled ones. I want the hard ones. And I started marketing for those. The ones that are really behind on taxes, the ones that had Liz penances filed, and the land records, lots of like erroneous documents. You see all these messes and say, let's go after that one. From there, it started to grow. I would do it because a lot of times you have to buy these cash. Can't use any lending because you can't get a title insurance policy because they're title problems. So I'd buy cash, a $50,000 lot, $80,000 house, lower price stuff. And as I started to learn how to resolve those, I started to get a little bit more confidence. Because you're going to rip this check and hope you're going to fix it. And we finally get to this point where I realized we're fixing 98% of them. Every once in a while, we're running a problem where we really don't think we can fix it or it's not worth fixing. Most times it's working. Just started up in the ante. $200,000 deal, $300,000 deal, $1 million deal. I have the biggest one right now I have is $3.2 million.
Wow.
Nice, dude. Are these all, are you still, even as you move into these larger ranks, are you still following properties or are you just now starting to go into more like any route?
No, they all still have problems. They're just different problems. One of them had a terrible tenant. The owner of the property had sold the business that was in that property. He sold the business to another operator, and the new operator was running his business in there, and he was paying rent. The tenant was screwing up. He'd gotten behind, and then the guy that owned the real estate had started having problems in his personal life. He was personally behind on his taxes. The tenant wasn't paying him, so he couldn't pay his bills, and he didn't resolve it quickly. So it started to get deeper and deeper and deeper. But when you got a tenant in there, you don't just say, get out. You have to sue the people in a commercial situation, usually, if they don't leave. And these people had tons of plant equipment, tons of inventory. I mean, you ain't just moving out like an overnight deal. I mean, to move this business was about a $70,000 move.
Wow.
And these dudes are already behind on their $23,000 rent. So they ain't getting out by Friday.
So the dude just wanted to just tuck tail and run, like to just avoid having to deal with all that?
Right. And I've been working on this dude for 2 years. Finally, he gave in. He beat me up on the sales price a little bit, but it was still well within the range. So I closed on it, and I basically just let this tenant keep failing. And when they got far enough behind, that's when I started to do the lockout deal and then start sending them notices. So it took 9 months on that one. You had to really get it out. But the issue is, you got to watch out, because if you sue them while you're doing this, I planned on selling the real estate. I didn't plan to keep it anyway. I got a great deal on it. I'm going to sell it, make good money. So the whole time, they finally hired an attorney, and I thought, if I sue these guys, they're going to file Liz pendants against the property. Although they shouldn't, they'll still do it, and the judge will let it stay. And the property's locked up. I can't go sell it and get my real money while I'm fighting with them over the $100,000 in rent and taxes they owe me. And the
So
money I make on the building,
yeah,
I let the idiots leave without suing them at the moment. So I helped them pack up. they packed up on quite a bit of it. I got guys out there hauling the rest of their crap out right now. I'm paying for it, but I'm running a tab. I got a buyer for the building. It's in contract to sell right now. Once they close on it and buy it, then I'm going to sue the tenant. So it'll be 2 months, 3 months after they finish moving out. So they'll get hit later. But I got to dispose of the real estate so they can't lock up my sale.
Oh, wow.
Smart, man. Yeah, I didn't even know you could even do that.
Yeah. So that kind of stuff can happen on real estate, commercial stuff, bigger stuff. It can happen on ranches. It can happen on mineral rights. It can happen on any of that. Big and small. It's just the bigger ones are more expensive and more risk, and they usually move slower. So you really got to be, work your way up to it.
That's a good story. That's crazy.
That is awesome, dude. I think anybody that knows you or has known you long enough knows that you spend a little bit of time in court. You want to kind of go into that and tell us what that looks like on the purchase side or the sell side, like things you should probably avoid, look out for, like places where you've got stuck before.
Yeah, I mean, the strategy is designed to resolve a problem. If you can't get that problem fixed, negotiating, you're going to end up having to get in front of a judge. And there's always a solve there. There really is. The tough part is fact patterns are never what folks think they are. So you really got to understand what you're getting into and understand the risk. Even when you're right and you 99% think you're right and your attorney tells you you're perfectly right and all this, that doesn't mean the litigation is going to shake out the way you want. There might be all kinds of facts that you didn't know, didn't understand, and you wind up making mistakes or have made mistakes in the process. So just because you started this whole fight doesn't mean you're always going to win it. Now, if you're measuring your risk and you're really careful and you have good advice along the way, 9 out of 10 times you should prevail, especially if it's a business purpose. It's not just you're angry at a business partner and you're going to sue because you're an asshole kind of thing. And you want to get, and if it's pride and ego related, you're going to get in real trouble. If it's a business case, you got better odds because you're measuring your risk. But most of the time when there's a big problem, 80%, 90% of the time or higher, we get it resolved by just negotiating with people and not being knuckleheads. But you've been on a deal with us where you saw us have to go a long way on several crazy people. Two of the prior owners. God, that thing took a year and a half. I think we did a lawsuit. I can't remember. I know we did an eviction. We had a lot of slow play in there. Sometimes you really want to speed up, put the gas on there, put the heat on everybody, and sometimes you want to roll slow. So if you're really trying to put the heat on, even if you don't know if the lawsuit's going to go all the way, sometimes you still want to file it and get it going because that lets people know you're serious. Everybody comes to the table with their evidence and their ask, and you really start negotiating hard. Or you litigate a little bit, get some of the facts out, and then see, all right, how does your claim stack up next to mine? Now let's negotiate knowing with what we know, because one person's going to have a little more leverage. Sometimes that's the right answer, or sometimes it's just rolling slow.
Yeah, man, that one was nice. That one was on the back burner for a while. Well, not in the back burner, but it took a little while, right? Somebody almost got hit with a bow and arrow on that one, didn't they?
Somebody got assault charges that was in the property. Yeah, man. Those guys were making drugs, using drugs, wanting to kill each other. That shit was nuts.
There was a gun involved, a crossbow.
That's right. But
and
I say that
quick.
I find like some real estate investors want things quick, easy, and cheap. All these deals are slow, hard, and expensive to resolve. But when it's done, you get a fair deal. We JV'd, if you remember, we JV'd with the current owner of that one to help clear up the title claim, the cloud on the title. We JV'd with him. We paid him a split. You brought us the deal. You got a split. And then we got a split for making the deal work. And I think we all walked away feeling good about what we got out of it based on what we've all brought to the table.
Heck yeah. No, that was awesome, man. So are you still like publicly pushing for these types of deals now, or are you going a different route, or what are you thinking?
Yeah, I do talk about it, and we get a lot of referrals from that stuff. And we're still looking for stuff with issues. We've just gotten better at sizing up the problems and being able to ascertain, we think this is one that's more solvable or not, because we've just been through so many now. But I still talk about it.
No, that's awesome. And yeah, because I didn't want to push more stuff like that your way if you weren't looking for it, because I know some of those get bloody. But yeah, I'm probably your best eyewitness, because every time I see something that looks messy, I don't even slow down, man. Like I kind of know what to do on a lot of this stuff, but I just push it straight to you guys. I'm like, hey, you can have it. You guys figure it out. Just give me whatever you think. It's kind of funny too, because on our very first deal, I remember you guys asking me that, like, hey, what do you need to make on this? And I'm like, just give me whatever you think, whatever's fair.
Yeah.
And then still to this day, when I send you guys something, I'm like, I don't know, just whatever. I just know you guys are gonna take care of me. Because I guess you can measure how big the problem's gonna be, and I can't, and it's easier for me to just throw it to you guys and just keep on moving. So yeah, it's pretty awesome to have a connection like that.
Yeah, man, absolutely.
That's dope.
So one thing we kind of mentioned before this is now you're kind of like a manager. Now you kind of built out your teams, and you even made a post today that you're looking for a hot new hire. How big has your team gotten, and how has expanding past like the real estate business? Because now you're not actually in the day to day. You have people for that, but how does it positioning yourself onto that manager position?
Well, my office includes about 15 people now. We got a couple partners here, and then we've got some administrative. We got some lead gen and some dispo folks, and then some transactional folks that are dealing with contracts, dealing with title a lot, whether it be an asset we're purchasing and reselling, whether it be something we're buying to keep, whether it be in the wholesaling business. So it's about 15 of us. That's about as big as this organization really needs to get. I don't know that we're really going to need a whole ton more people, a few more acquisition people, but I think we've built out enough infrastructure that we can do a lot more deals than we're doing. At this point, it's just knowledge and capital. And I think that's our growth pattern, really. We really have the people we need. I don't know if we even need more. So that's neat. That's good to know. And in the last 6 or 8 months, we've really been working on just strategy, where deals are coming from, what we're doing with them, capital management plan. You got to have a lot of runway. Like we were talking earlier, you really have to plan how this is going to work. Because if you're going to lock up capital for a month, it's not that bad. If you're going to lock it up for 6 months or 12 months or intermittent times, you really have to have a kind of a waterfall plan of when you're spending this and when it's coming back in to make sure that it balances. Otherwise, you'll get stuck in a cash flow crunch. And any growing business has to think about these things. Some folks that are leveled, they don't, because they're kind of expected and consistent and all that. But if you're trying to grow, you better. So that's important. That's what we've been working on a lot there. In terms of the management stuff, you got to think of different things. I'm really trying to look at some of the other partners I've got and some of the other businesses we have and say, how can I affect them to help them be successful? Sometimes it's talking about their own personal finances. Sometimes it talks about how they're managing their day to day. And sometimes it talks about, what kind of training they're giving the folks in their company. It's a whole different look. Or I've been spending a lot of time working on this new office plan. We bought an office, got a bunch of tenants in there. We're remodeling it, stuff like that. That takes a ton of work, but it's preparing another 5,000 square foot for my people to get into in January. That's stuff I got to do while they're doing what they're doing. So that's kind of my contribution to help putting, the feet under them.
Yeah. When you got to be the legs for a lot of people, that's where things get heavy.
Right. Or maybe another thing you don't think of. So in the last 2 years, we started using a little bit more credit lines with banks. After we built some time and some growing concern and some financials, the banks around and said, hey, we'll offer you a fair amount of credit lines. So it's nice because we've got our resources and then we've got some extra there with the local lenders. But what that requires is financials have to be produced on a regular basis. They have to be clean. You got to take a minute and explain because our business is changing so rapidly. This financial relative to 6 months ago might look radically different. So I got to go in there, explain why, keep them up to date, and keep them comfortable that these credit lines that have extended to us are still safe. And what we're doing with their money is still what they want us or feel good about doing. So that stuff is happening while somebody's over here in the field cutting a deal with somebody right now. I'm doing that to make sure they got capital behind them when they ink that contract.
Wow.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, got to be able to put the deal together whenever you need that capital available. Are you finding more successful using local banks or?
Yeah. If you try to go to a Wells Fargo or a Chase or something, those guys aren't really taking for businesses that you would call us. We would be still a small business relative to some $200 million credit facility type deal. When you go to those kind of guys, they want a different level of financial, and a lot of small to mid-sized businesses don't have that, but a lot of the local lenders will do it. They've got certain size clients that they like. You might have a local bank that only has $100 million in capital total, and you want $2 million credit line. Well, that's 2% of their total available credit. So you can do that, and that's not bad for them. But when you go to also getting those kind of credit lines available is a whole heck of a lot easier with a local bank than it is with like a Chase, for example. Those are tough to deal with.
So how does somebody establish a relationship with a local bank like that? Do you have to just go in there and is it applying for a credit line and then based on your financials? You start with like a credit card, or how do you even start a relationship with a bank like that?
We started with accounts there, and we operated for a couple of years, and they could see our accounts. We'd use them, we'd grow them. There are lots of deposits, and the accounts were getting better and better. And of course, then we had financials that started to look better. So after a couple of years, we started having conversations with the guys that were running that branch on top of their commercial credit department. And we'd say, hey, this is what we're doing. This is what our books look like. Just start opening up conversations with them and telling them, look, we're interested in commercial credit with y'all in the near term. And we started out with something tiny, relatively tiny, $100,000, not a ton. We had 30 people personally guarantee it, and everybody had good financials. So they were thinking, of these 3, if they default, one of these boneheads can get the money. Neat thing is we always had some real estate. We have not had to pledge the real estate because they believe that we could make good on that debt with or without collateral. So we started there, and then you operate for a year, you draw the credit line, we'd use it, and then we pay it back quickly. And we'd use it, extend it for a month, 6 weeks, pay it back. Boom. So we were always taking it out, putting it back, but we were making sure to get that thing satisfied. So they would see we're good stewards of that debt. If you were to get that, maybe you get that credit facility, all of a sudden you draw out the $100,000 instantly, you don't pay it back for 9 months. They're happy to get their interest, but they're looking at like, damn, what do you do with this money? Is he using this to pay the bills? Like, why isn't he cycling it?
Yeah.
So we'd be healthy users of it. And then after 6 months or a year, we'd come back and say, hey, do you want to up it a little bit? And we just kind of slowly work it up that way.
Wow. What type of interest rates are they giving you in general when you first start off?
So that's the cool part. The interest rate, it's either you're credit worthy or not. It wasn't like they're going to give you the credit line, but it's a higher rate. So for us, we started at, so this was 2018. We started at 6% was our first one. And then it went down to 4. And then as low as it was a year ago, it was at 3.3. Wow. So that's the neat thing about using these kind of banks with a credit worthy person or business. Dude, your interest rates are not much above prime, just a hair. Bank keeps a little difference, and that's it. Relative to like a private money lender who wants 8, 10, 12% plus points, dude. So if you're to have a 3% credit line, let's say it's just $100,000 for easy numbers, $3,000 a year. That's $300 a month for $100,000. That's free. So the rates have gone up now since we started to get these interest rates. I think I'm at 5% now is what it is because our rates are climbing right now.
Oh man, that's terrible.
It's a big difference, but relative, it doesn't matter.
No, me and Andy talk about that too. Is this the cycle of money? If you can continuously give a return on money, doesn't matter what type of ask they're doing it, but the money just gets cheaper when you can return that money no matter what.
Yeah, it's always been like this. The people that need the money the least get it the most and at the best rates. It's very low risk.
I just recently heard that phrase. It's when you need the money, nobody wants to give it to you. When you don't need it, everybody wants to give it to you.
Yeah, they know you're going to pay it back. So, but I've encouraged a lot of folks. There are some guys that have built a huge business around private capital. And I don't think it's a bad way to go. It's fast and easy relative to the bank. The bank is slow and troublesome, and you have to jump through a lot of hoops. But when it's done, man, it's very low cost, and it's relatively easy once you're up and running.
Man, well, I think we should change gears now, right? Didn't we come together here today to talk about leads?
Yeah, let's talk about leads. There you go.
Yes.
So, what is your lead source for troubled leads? Because I've heard this before, but I think now you're kind of doing a little bit of variety of different types of leads. So what's your main source of leads now?
So there are 2 sections. I guess I'll break the business into 2. We've got our wholesaling business, and then we have our business where we're buying assets. Maybe they're going to be rentals, maybe they're going to be just flips. We resell them, something like that. But something we're intending on buying, and those still are non-owner occupants and delinquent on tax. If they're out of town, like out-of-state owners, they're usually better. But those are the 3 best items I can find for your best deal. They don't care. They don't live there. They're already behind a little bit. It's not like they got to move out of the place. All they got to do is just sign a contract, and it's easy. So those are some of my favorites. We'll pull that from the tax authority, and for like $200, you can get you the entire Excel list.
Yeah, I think we pulled it a couple of times. That's a pretty big file to mess with by the time you go through there and clean all that stuff up.
Right. But the neat thing is
Yeah.
it's cheap. So you can, we started out doing that stuff just in Bexar County. Those were easy. Now we're at the point where we just recently, for the wholesaling business, pulled a lead list that includes, basically we took I-35 from Oklahoma to Mexico, and we drew 60 miles west, 60 miles east. So it's a 120 mile wide band from Oklahoma to Mexico. Every county that was in that band, we put them on the list, and we purchased a huge custom data set. And that's the data set that we're using for the wholesaling business. So we'll peel out about 100,000 leads of that per month and send it through the cold callers. And then they'll cycle that 100,000 leads all month. The next month, we'll pull another 100,000 out of that list. That should be enough leads, that whole data set, for 12 months.
Yeah, Lee. What was the total number on that pool? Do you know?
No, I don't know. It was filtered. We included certain sizes of ranch land and multifamily. It was like over 2 units, less than 40 units, I think is what it was, somewhere in that range. I remember we had some trouble picking certain ranges. So there were some counties that we could just get multifamily, and there's going to be stuff that's outside of our range. When you're casting this wide of a net, you don't want your filter to be too tight.
Yeah. Well, that's dope, man. That's incredible.
By me telling you that tells you that we're doing a fair amount of the multifamily.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So that's how those leads will come in, very, very raw. So we'll get that, and filtration is pretty slim. But when they go in the cold callers will call through those leads, and their job is not to get a bunch of good information. Their job is, do you want to sell, yes or no? And if they say anything other than no, that's a warm lead we send in through the CRM from the cold callers to our actual office with live in-person acquisitions folks.
Bringing the pros no matter what.
Right. If they say maybe, I'm thinking about it, heck yes, anything other than no comes into us. So that's where we take that prospect and turn it into a warm. And that's when we qualify to a warm lead. So now it's a warm lead. Now it's in our CRM. So that's when we have an acquisition person, one of the 4 in there. Well, now I'll call him. Hey, you just talked to John. He said you might have some interest in selling that 6-plex in New Braunfels. Let's talk a little bit more about that. And they're trying to get the close.
Very nice, man. That's a cool system you have. I imagine you guys are combing through a lot of leads. So we're starting to come across that now. Hive is starting to get a little decent name. So people are reaching out to us from all over the country and sending us stuff like, hey, I think I have a lead. Hey, I have this. So we're trying to systematize that inbound lead flow. And I guess 4 people could probably handle it, but we're still trying to piece that together. So can you tell us what that looks like handling inbound leads? Is it just kind of go like round robin to each person, or does somebody specialize in each different type of lead? And then I think we're spending a lot of time underwriting or running comps. How does that go? Is that in-house too?
So that was something we had to get over. That's in-house, and you've got to figure out how to do it really quickly. So some of the guys in our office, I noticed, were really, really good at assessing and valuing really quickly and saying it's in the ballpark or it's not. And if it's not, move on really quickly. There are some guys in the office that would spend all day looking at 2 or 3 leads and trying to find every perfect comp and all these details. And there's another person that would burn through 10 or 15 of them in a day, like boom, 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 boom. And I started to find the person that was burning through them quickly was getting far more contracts because they got more looks.
Yeah.
But so there would be 4 cold callers and 3 acquisitions people on that team. So the 4 cold callers were generating those warm leads, getting rid of the acquisitions people. Those acquisitions people would look through them and basically decide to cut the deal or not. So the low end is about 10 deals a month. The high end is about 20 deals a month. That's kind of the range that we've been falling in with the 3 people. So that's kind of how that shook out. So each person would get 3 to 5 contracts roughly per month.
Dang, man, that's amazing. So that's what you guys have been running right now, like 10 to 20 deals a month?
Yeah. Yeah, it's crazy though, because I've not yet found a way to stabilize the number to make it like
Mhm.
we're 15, 15, 15, 15. It just doesn't work like that. I don't know why. Real estate just seems to be choppy. And unless you have 60 lead gen people, you're not going to get the leveled out. When you only have 3, it's like 2 guys are on, one's not, your lead flows down. Or the next one,
Yeah.
all 2 are hitting, the third one's not, but the lead flows way up. And that's a big range, range from 10 to 20, that's a 50% jump or 100% jump,
Mhm.
that's a big swing.
Yeah.
Or you'll have these weird times where like a lot of deals are supposed to close in April and like half of them get pushed to May and they'll close the first week of May. So it
Mhm.
skews the number dramatically.
Yeah, we were just talking about that earlier, Daniel, myself. Like it's like 1 month, like we're just feels like we're just firing on all cylinders and everything's popping, and then 1 month it just goes a little quiet. So we're like, I don't know. I guess that's part of catching the rhythm. I don't know.
You're like, did we lose it? Oh my God, it's gone away.
Yeah.
That's not an easy solve, man. There are some folks that are doing lower margin and much higher volume. And for them, they seem to like that because when you get at a higher volume, it seems to be a little more consistently. It's at least 20 a month, but they're smaller spreads, 3, 4, 5 grand. So if you can have a trade-off, you have a lot more organizational churn. I don't really want that. I want more efficiency than
Yeah.
just constant churn. That's not what I like.
I think what separates you guys too is that you're doing bigger deals in general. So 10 to 20 deals a month. You might do 10 deals that might net 500 grand, but you do 10 deals the next month and it's $1 million. It's the
Right.
same deal flow, but you're messing with the numbers on the skew. So I think for you it's a little different because it's the deal size bigger, which is good because you're capable to take down any type of deal in general from any size.
That's
Big or
true. It's
small.
taken us longer to figure out how to, like Anthony was saying, to underwrite those. Something else I've noticed is just now that we have enough trailing months, this wholesale business started last September. It's doing really well. It's generally stabilized. And what I noticed is about 50% of the revenue is coming from about 20% of the deals. Another 80% of the revenue is about 20% of the deals. So like, what that means, the average assignment fee is 15 to 17 grand for 80% of those. But the other 20% have big old honking fees. I'm talking multiples of that, big multiples of that. So there's a large chunk of revenue come from only 20% of the deals. But my first response as a manager to that is, well, why don't we just do more of those bigger deals and less of the smaller ones? And we tried to shift marketing a little bit that way, and we realized it doesn't work that way. You have to cast a wide net and churn through the small ones. You have to have those conversations because those big ones, you can't really focus on those because it doesn't happen that way. They happen to be in those massive lists, and you're basically looking through for a needle in a haystack. And if you don't look through that haystack and find all the other hay, you're not going to find the needle too. So you have to be doing, for us, you have to be doing the 10 to 15 deals a month to get those extra 3 or 4 that are the whoppers.
Yeah,
That's
I
a
did
good
it
tip.
backwards.
What's
Yeah,
that?
I was doing it backwards. I was going after these giant land deals, and that's why I was only doing 10 deals a year. And then now that we're trying to up our volume, I have the team here. We're running deals, and yeah, some of them are $5,000, and I'm like, hey guys, trust me, the big ones are in here. And sure enough, yeah, we'll get the big nice ones come across too. But you're absolutely right, man. And I'm just experiencing it now, trying to cast a wider net, and that's what's kind of we're trying to catch a rhythm of trying to even all that flow out, both ingoing and outgoing.
Yeah, the word you're using, rhythm, I guess, is a good one to use for that. You're having to really pay attention and watch how things work, and building the business is one thing, but optimizing it is a whole different ball game.
Yeah.
That's such a good tidbit, man. Such a good tidbit. Can we talk about your I hate that you sold your office, but can you talk about how you found that deal and like your whole time for that? Because I loved your office when I was there, and that was the last time I saw you in San Antonio. But
Yeah.
can we kind of cover that deal, how you found it, where you purchased,
Yeah.
price it, like now that it's done now, because you've done sold it now.
Well, we haven't closed. It's supposed to close in about 2 weeks.
Oh man, okay.
So we're close. So Ryan and I were looking at the foreclosure list in 2018 wintertime. It was September, November range. And we were looking at a particular zip code where most of the houses were selling for less than 200 grand. And we see one of them for 490. I'm like, dang, that's an expensive one. What the heck? Is it a commercial building? Is it a big piece of land? And this was a smaller infill subdivision right adjoining the Pearl. And I was like, man, that's a strange price. So I Googled the address and see this big old historic mansion. And I think, oh, what the heck? Okay, this is interesting. And I've never done one like that before, but I thought, well, how do I size this up real quick? So we drive by it, and it's just a neat thing. And I thought, man, let's call this guy. What the heck? Or actually, Ryan was the one that suggested. He goes, why don't you just call him? I was like, okay, why not? We've been looking for an office, and we thought maybe it's big enough because we were leasing an office at the time. So we meet with the owner. We walk the place. And I'm saying, hey, man, you thinking about selling this? And he's like, I kind of have. And in my mind, I'm like, well, you better do it before next Tuesday or the first Tuesday of next month, because that's a foreclosure. But I never told the guy I knew he was in default and knew it was going to be sold because I knew if he owned this, he had some money. I figured there'd be some pride and ego issues there. So I didn't talk about the foreclosure. Never to this day. So we talked. I made him an offer of he owed like $430 or $440 or something on it, and I offered him $500. That way, there were outstanding taxes of $30 or $40 or something like that. So my estimate was, the loan was only 2 years old, which I thought was strange. So I thought, if you pay off the loan, pay off the back taxes, you walk with 50 grand. Yes, sir. I know that's not really, really high, but that's the best I can do. And he says, man, I get this architect firm offering me $700. I'm like, shit, that's a good deal. Honestly, you should take that, man. I can't do that. So he says, well, I'm going to talk to him. We'll see. Thanks for your time, whatever. I call him a week later. So this is 3 weeks. It's like T-minus 3 weeks to foreclosure. So that was the first week we walked it. Second week before foreclosure, I call him, hey, man, you get that offer from the architect firm, whatever? Nah, I'm still talking to him. I'm supposed to hear back from him this week. Week before the foreclosure, I call him, and he stops answering my calls. I'm like, oh, typical foreclosure guy. So I call the bank and say, y'all, it's a local bank. And he's like, y'all still foreclosing? They're like, oh, yeah. The dude ain't paid us yet. They're pissed. So we go down the sale. And at that price, they listed it. The credit bid was $490,000. Or no, it was $430, and then taxes come in tow. That's a lot of money. When you're talking about foreclosure for 80 grand, you're willing to take a risk. You're talking about almost 500. Not doing it. So I watched it go to the lender at the foreclosure sale for the credit bid. No one bid on it. And then I went to the bank the next day with a contract. I was like, hey, guys, here's a contract. So we cut a deal, $490. That's what I paid.
He let it go to foreclosure?
Yeah. So he would have walked with me with at least 50 grand. Let it go.
Dude, what's the psychology behind that? I don't want to veer too off from the story all the way through the sale, but why do people do that are in foreclosure? What the hell happens in their brain? They're just like, I'm going to lose. I don't want anybody to get it. Or they know they have a little bit of money coming. What the heck?
It's like, so there's pride and ego, I think, get in their way a lot. And also, if they concede, they almost feel like they gave in. If the bank forecloses, that means you had to come and take this from me. I didn't give it back to anybody. I didn't give it to you. I didn't give it away. It's like, you're going to have to take this from me. It's a pride and ego and a frustration position. And I mean, the dude used to run an extremely successful, very big construction company. And I later found out he was an alcoholic. He got into a DWI accident. And apparently his wife came to visit him in the hospital, which is where she met his girlfriend who was in an accident with him. Ooh. And the whole thing blew up. He was in the hospital. She came home, drained the accounts, closed the business. He comes out of this coma, and he doesn't have a wife anymore, and he doesn't have any money. And he's served with divorce papers.
Golly.
Yeah. So at that point, went ahead and closed on it. I'd gotten a chance. When I had the contract with the bank, I had a month. So I did inspections, mechanical, electrical, plumbing. I knew the roof had a little bit of trouble. Not too bad, but I knew it was a little So at that point, I knew what it was going to cost me. So I spent 4 months repairing damaged wood, inside, outside, all this stuff. Got it all done. And then that's when we moved into operate out of here, ran our business out of it.
Yeah, it came out amazing, man. I just pull up there whenever I'm driving by with somebody like that hasn't seen it before. I'm like, I got to show you this. Go knock on the door.
Man, it's
That's
tough
making my
to actually
blow.
let this go. I don't fall in love with real estate because to me it's a commodity. I make deals, I move on. This is one of the few places that's so special and so unique. And I'll just, it's sad because I know that you don't get something like this very often. It will probably never be able to replace it in our career because we just won't stumble across it for a good deal again.
Mhm.
But the new office I bought has 15. This is 5,500 square foot. The new one's 15,000 square foot. So I've got a lot
Dang.
more room. Yeah, the location's really good. It's right there, Broadway and 410. So it's incredible location, right down the street from my house, right by the airport, like killer location.
A+ location, man. That's dope.
It is.
Are
So it's tough to let this go, but we got something ahead.
Are you still in the office right now?
So I'm in the office right now. Buyer's supposed to close in a week or two, and then I'm actually going to lease back from them for a year. Well, not quite a year. My goal is to be done in December. I'm remodeling, gutting, and remodeling the new place right now. So hopefully we should be done moving in the holidays.
I saw some of those progress pics, man. That thing's coming out amazing.
Yeah, thanks. That's a lot bigger project than in terms of building wise that I'm used to doing for a remodel, but it'll be worth it when we're done.
Do it once
So
and get it over with.
what,
Yeah.
what's your sale price now? Because you're selling at the top of the market.
Oh, on this place?
Yeah.
And I would like to say, but until it closes, I probably don't know that I should.
Yeah, I was gonna say maybe you don't want to talk about that right this second.
But I'll tell you, I'm not taking an L. We'll be fine.
Well, I mean, you don't lose on deals, right?
Normally, no.
But so let's talk about this. Let's talk about losing in real estate because you said real estate investors don't lose money, right?
Yeah.
We're always on the winning side of the business. Um, let's talk about some losses. Have you had some really bad losses that you kind of faced head on that were like, yeah,
Yeah.
that one hurt?
The first, I guess, rule or goal should be to never risk principal. So let's just say you start your business with 100 grand, easy number, whatever. You don't ever want to risk that principal. You want to grow it. You want to invest it. You want to grow the business, but you want to risk that initial investment. As you make more money and reinvest more, you still want to risk that investment. So when you go to invest, let's just use a flip house, for example. We're going to buy it for 100, put some money into it and resell for 200 maybe. So if you break even, that's one thing. But if you sell it for less than you have into it, you're risking principal. You're losing money, and that's the hard part because you have to make twice as much when you lose. Because you got to pay taxes on it. You got overhead. And then you lose some of that. You really have to work double as hard to recoup that loss. So there's so many bad cases for that. But they're about, I don't know, 1, 2, 3. There are 3 times where I've lost money. One of them was on a big flip house, and 5 years ago, never forget, the number stands out, and I talk about it often, $54,000. That was a whopping loss at the time, and it really hurt at the time. So in that case, I overshot the market, I undershot the repair costs, and I overpaid. Basically, every one of those things I was off because I was so optimistic. I'm going to flip a house now in my Heights. Everyone's going to love it. It's going to be so valuable. The market's going upwards every day. I was wrong on all accounts. And in that case, I borrowed private money. So I had to bring 54 to the closing table to pay off the freaking debt and interest.
Ouch.
Oh
That's a good
man.
one.
That was tough. But what came out of that loss is it made me look at every single deal differently. And I said, I have to get better deals. I have to get the deal so good that if I overprice it, if I undervalue repairs, if I miss the market, if I do all these mistakes, I still won't lose money. So what that did is, let's say, so on that house, for example, I paid $330,000. Nowadays, when I look at a deal like that, I wouldn't pay more than $150,000, which would leave an additional $150,000, $180,000 difference. That's how much more disciplined I got because I can make all those mistakes and still not lose money. And now you say, oh my God, how do you get a deal like that, right? How do you get deals like that these days? They don't exist. Well, y'all both know my volume is pretty good. So they exist. You just have to look differently for them. But if I wouldn't have had those heavy mistakes, a couple of those early on, I wouldn't have told myself, oh my gosh, I would have just be moving through doing these smaller little flips and little deals and making a couple bucks here and there. And I don't know if I would have gotten the shakeup that said, you need to look harder, dude.
Yeah.
So that was one of them. There was another one where one of the lit cases we made some mistakes early on, and I didn't realize it. We had legal advice all the way along it, 2 attorneys, and we made some mistakes. We got deep into the lawsuit, and the other party did a great job litigating and basically showed us our mistakes. And I knew at that point I need to cut a deal because I don't think I'm going to win a trial if this goes that far. So in that case, I wrote it down and cut a deal that cost me money. So that caused me to look at those type of cases much differently. And we do a different kind of review on them now so that I shouldn't find myself in those positions as often.
Yeah, I noticed one thing that stands out to me. I've had probably a lot of mentors, but you and Ryan being the front runners that have been there, like I said, the whole time. But I think one thing from the beginning when I first got in, because I am one of those ready, fire, aim guys, is you think a lot in terms of defense. And at first, I was kind of a little annoyed by it. I'm like, this guy's too careful, but
everybody thinks you're negative Nancy. They think you're negative Nancy. They think you're always talking shit of a deal. They think it's no fun. But you know what I'm doing? I'm making sure no one loses their ass. Yeah. And I'll tell you what, I have 3 losses. One of them only made $1,500 on. It was a flip. I call that a loss. I worked on it for 2 months, invested money, and walked away with $1,500. I had a partner in the deal, so he got $750 and I got $750. I worked 2 months for $750. That's a freaking loss to me.
Yeah.
But
I want my 2 months back. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. I want my 2 months back. You can keep the $750. But so those deals cause us to look at things differently. And now I'm never worried about the profit anymore. I'm worried about all the ways you can lose money. And if you assess a dollar amount to all those and get a subsequently equivalent discount to those potential risks, now what you have is a margin of safety, but it's a convertible profit margin. It can be a margin of safety or it can be profit, but it can convert into a margin of safety if the market starts to weaken, if you make mistakes. So let's just say you think you're going to have a $50,000 profit. I look at that as a $50,000 convertible margin of safety. I can make $50,000 worth of mistakes before I risk my principal. Mm-hmm. So yeah, sometimes people bring us deals, they're like, dude, you're looking for everything wrong with this. I'm like, that's exactly what I'm doing. And I know it's not fun, but I'm making sure no one's losing their ass.
No, man. Yeah, I feel it. And like I said, I just from being around you now for a few years, I am thinking in terms of that more because now even, being in business with Daniel with Hive Mind, I'm like, you got to think about this. We got to watch out about this. You got to factor for this. And he's, still in the extra optimistic phase, I guess. And then I'm the one that has to be the one that says, dude, you don't know that. There's no possible way you can predict that. We need to, and then I kind of hear you in the back of my mind too, coming up with this stuff. I'm like, I'm just telling you, man, you have to look at the things that could go wrong. You have to.
And the neat part is you've had some experience now. And I'm sure along the way you made some of these mistakes and you say, man, I learned from these guys because I've watched and heard it, but I've also had a couple mistakes. So now I can see, dude, I don't want that to happen anymore.
Yeah, I think you got to kind of learn through some pain, right? It's like your parents tell you, don't touch that hot stove, and you do it anyway. I've been coming to find more of that in business. Is that like, yeah, they can give you all the good advice, but are you going to take it? Yes or no? And right. I am, like I said, since I am that over optimistic, ready, fire, aim guy, I got to kind of, tame myself down and say, hey, let's take a wider look at this and make sure that we're not walking into any traps.
Absolutely.
And we recently had one, right, Daniel? We had a pretty big scare there for a minute.
What happened?
Man, it's a long story, but our payment processor was charging us incorrectly for 4 months, and once they caught it, they ran our card all in one day. So we paid back payments for 4 months for almost 400 subscribers. So yeah, it wasn't amazing. Yeah.
Ooh, ouch.
So yeah, talk about having to make a miracle happen in just a couple of days. But yeah, that was a real. We were like, yeah, dude. So I mean, you live and you learn. It's nothing that we could have predicted, nothing we could have foreseen, but it's the thing that I've been talking to Daniel about since we started this thing. Is like, yeah, you got to be prepared for surprises. You have to factor in the unfactorable. Yeah. So
It's true. And, there's no better time to think about that than right now. You've got interest rates ticking up, it seems like every month. We've probably got a several point increase on the horizon between now and the end of the year. I've heard potentially as much as 2 and 3 points, percentage points or basis points, whatever, 300. That if that happens, that's going to immediately change the market. I've been so bold as to say if we had a single 100 basis point increase, which is equivalent to 1% of interest rates, I think that would almost freeze the market. The capital markets would hold for just a moment and see what the heck's going on. What are we going to do? Because that's a dramatic change. Biden's been issuing a bunch of stuff lately saying their intent is to get control of the inflation. Only thing that will do that right now is a radical, dramatic action. And the only tool they have left is interest rates that I know of.
So what do you think needs to happen, man? Can we get out the crystal ball right now? Like what should happen? And then let's say, if things run to hell, like I hate to predict the future, right? But can you give us like what could happen here? Like what's worst case scenario? And then what's the fix? What's best case scenario?
I mean, I don't think anybody's smart enough to really predict what's going to happen. The smartest minds on Wall Street still haven't been able to predict it with any kind of consistency. So, but what we can say is we're far along enough in a real estate cycle where it should be time for a correction. We know we're seeing a lot of inflation. We know we're seeing asset values and expenses run much faster than salaries are running. So you got a lot of things that are coming to a head, and all it takes is a special surprise over in Russia or China or wherever, or any other unknown list of things that could happen, and credit markets freeze overnight. Stock market's already damn near been a free for all for the last couple of weeks. So, I mean, you just have a lot of those conditions that are happening. You say, what are we going to do? Well, somebody asked me that a couple of weeks ago, and I said, I'm not going to do anything. And they said, well, why not? Because we've been cautious with our capital. We've only been buying assets that we're going to either resell or we feel good about owning if we don't resell them for the right money and the right time. Anytime we've been taking down stuff, we make sure that they have good cash flow. We're not buying anything that's not really a cash flow asset, because in case we get stuck with it for some reason. We're also buying with pretty darn good discounts. A lot of stuff we're getting between 40 and 60 cents on the dollar. So the market can fall by 30 or 40%, and I can still sell it and get my principal back. That margin of safety thing we're talking about is still really heavy. So I don't know that I change a lot. I continue to buy at the same rate. I continue to buy at the same discount. And if something dramatic happens, I can discount things and sell them and still get my principal back and still remain liquid, I believe. Mm-hmm. But what is a different thing at this point? For the last 10 years, all these hedge funds have been in love with single family housing after BlackRock hit their home run buying all the single family houses. Mm-hmm. So, I wonder when we start to get some softening in markets and real estate markets and things, do we get the softening in the single family houses? Maybe we do, maybe we don't. But if we do, I still think there's a ton of the investment grade buyers, not investments like flippers, but I mean institutional grade buyers. Right now, they're buying houses by the boatload. I'm talking mega. So that could probably still exist because they're doubling down on single family housing. It's proven to be a really good investment over time. Mm-hmm. So my gut tells me there's still probably going to be a lot of those big fund buyers still buying single family. So I like that because that tells me, all right, great. Maybe I don't buy so many ranches. If I can get a good deal on offices that have cash flow, I'll keep buying those things and kind of improving them a bit in terms of the economics, and maybe spend more time dealing with single family stuff again because we know how to do it so well. We can change gears and say, take that multifamily lead list out of the till and stick the single family lead list. Because remember, I told you I got all those leads. Let's just do a different filter and pop it in. Boom. Now we'll do single family starting next week.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I like the strategy. I haven't even talked to you about that yet, but I've been primarily doing land for the last 3 years, and it's been going really good for us. It's like kind of that cool niche that nobody's paying too much attention to. But myself, even just without even, I guess, thinking about it, I am starting to think a lot more about getting starting to market for houses. Yeah. So,
and I've always thought, and I've talked to folks that were doing real estate in the last slow period. Mm-hmm. And they did say land was one of the first things to slow down.
We haven't seen the slowdown yet. I'm just trying to gear up.
Well, no, I agree. Yeah, I haven't seen that either. But, so then you have this interesting thing about a lot of folks are spending a lot of money on land because land prices have been running and folks are coming to Texas. So land has really got a lot of attention. So when markets slow down, do you get some softening in land pricing? Probably. Do people completely stop buying it? I don't know. Maybe the economy stays a little bit stronger in Texas. Even in our last downturn, Texas was still much more healthy than all the rest of the places. Now, granted, we still go to the foreclosure auction and get a house for 40 grand. That was pretty neat. But we were far healthier than most of the other states. So I don't know what all that means, but I know the energy business is getting a little healthier again, and San Antonio is heavily affected by that, and so is South Texas, and by and large. So I think that helps us.
Yeah, I'm gonna still keep playing the land game. I don't know that I'm necessarily gonna keep closing on stuff, but I'm gonna do a bigger push for land right now, and I'm gonna see what we can pull back. Because like I said, that the prices have been going nuts, man. Even these sellers are they're asking like the prices they're asking are just crazy now. I mean, it's getting harder and harder to find a good land deal. So yeah, I think we do need we deserve a little bit of softening of the prices for sure. But I'm gonna keep pushing it, man. Like I said, maybe just stick to wholesaling instead of closing on land right now.
I don't think that's bad. Also, too, there are times where we look at certain deals that are over my head, and I say, you know what? I'm not completely sure about this one, or it would just be too stressful on our capital. So I say, hey, who do I know that's got a ton of money and understands land? Because there are tons of those people. So those are the times where I would get closer to calling somebody and say, hey, look, I've got the deal. Why don't you pay for it and let's figure out a split? And I wouldn't use any of my own money. I would be flat out honest with them and explain all those things to them. If they still felt like they felt good about it, let's do a deal. Let's use your money.
Mm-hmm.
When you get in the higher purchase price stuff.
Yeah, we're looking at that right now. Now I'm starting to have those people in the pipeline now that I can call and say, hey, can I borrow $500,000? And, yeah, sure, whatever.
Yeah.
But now that you do have that superpower, now I'm trying to protect their money, more being a little bit more cautious because it's somebody else's wallet too. So I'm like, now we need to buy even deeper, more carefully.
Well, so I agree with that, but I also agree that you got to find somebody who might be a little bit more of a specialist that has they've got maybe a longer trajectory for their return. They might be willing to wait longer. And in those cases, I would be real clear. I would say, look, I'm not 100% sure about some of this stuff, which is why I'm not, betting my farm on this. But if they feel good about it and they understand it and they're willing to do it, I mean, I wouldn't hide any of that. I'd be very upfront. And if they feel good about that, then it's okay. Well, I've got the lead, so let's make this deal work.
Yeah, that's what we did. We got one in Denton right now for 300, and that's what I told him. I said, hey, look, it's definitely not going to lose. I said, it's a guaranteed win. Worst case scenario, we just have to wait a little bit longer. That's the first thing I said before we even closed on it. So, yeah.
I think a lot of that transparency is important because folks get so wrapped up in making them want to promise people a lot because they think that's required to get the money. Some folks realize it's a risk. Some folks say, I want a guaranteed return and I want zero risk. That's more of me. But some guys just say, I'm willing to take on a little bit of risk. I'm willing to see how this goes. And another thought is, let's say you buy that land for 300 grand, think you're going to sell for 400 grand maybe. Well, what's the worst case that's going to happen? They say, well, I got 300 at risk. No, you don't. Let's say you buy it for 300 and you got to cut bait because you screwed up and you got to sell it for 280. So you walk with 280. You don't have 300 at risk. You have 20 at risk.
Yeah.
You're not going to buy the land for 300 and it's going to be worth $0. Come on, man. So maybe you have half of that at risk. What's your value at risk? Maybe it's half.
Yeah, that's the way I think about it. And that's what I've been telling a lot of people. Yeah, is that you're definitely not going to lose, right? Because the game we've been playing and we've been doing what you've been doing, buying it deep enough to where there's enough room to have fun with everybody. But that's what I told them. Like I said, you're not going to lose 100%. You're not going to lose, but you might have to wait a little bit longer or like I said, liquidate and get nothing back.
Or another option is you say, you know what? I'm the one that brought the deal. You decided to get involved with it. We tried this. Doesn't look like there's going to be any profit. I'll let you keep whatever it is. I'll either deed my half to you or I'll just pass on any of the proceeds because we don't think we're going to make a lot of money. So I don't need to make any money on this. You're the one that risks all the cash. If we're only going to make a small amount, you just keep that. Don't worry about it. Let's go. That's fair to me.
Yeah, I teed it up that way on this one too. I said, hey, if we end up having to get too low on our profit or our turnaround, I'll just take a zero, right? So I just invested some of my expertise and my knowledge, my time trying to market it, and didn't happen. We'll walk away and I'll get nothing. I'm good with that too, man. I like to try to make sure that everybody wins.
Yeah, I agree with that. I do agree with that. If you're not too greedy, you're willing to share. Makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, I can kind of tell now. Oh, go ahead, Danny.
I was gonna go ahead and ask you a question. I'll go after you.
I was gonna say that's kind of just how I do it. I can kind of tell if somebody's gonna be a good fit, like for a business partner with myself. If they start doing calculations and percentages before we actually have a deal on the table, I'm like, nah, forget it. This guy's getting crazy. So, you gotta be willing to be flexible in this business if you want to partner with a lot of people, and I've been pretty good at that.
Well, I mean, that's a fair statement, actually. Everybody sees stuff differently. Everybody sees their deals differently, and if you're not willing to be super flexible, you're gonna have a tough time making something work.
Yeah,
it's like because of what we talked about right now. It's like all the variables, right? You can't foresee the future, so you say, yeah, this looks like an amazing deal, but we don't know what's going to happen on the back end. So yeah, you got to have some level of flexibility going into something with somebody else.
Yeah, I'd agree with that for sure.
So, what is a quote that is yours or somebody else's that you resonate with?
Okay, this is a quote from Gone with the Wind. Do you mean to tell me that land doesn't mean anything to you? Why, land is the only thing in the world worth working for, worth fighting for, worth dying for, because it's the only thing that lasts. I thought that was a fun quote, and it was really relevant to our business. You know, I was having a conversation with a guy the other day. He's an attorney, and I happened to bump into him at a party of a friend of mine. He recognized me or whatever. We got to talking, and he basically said he likes to fight over land. He's an attorney, and that's kind of his thing. He thinks people are really passionate about it. They care about it. It's Texas. It can be really high value, and he's like, that's kind of what I made a career over fighting for land. And he told me that he started one of his Supreme Court briefs recently. The opening of that pleading had that quote from Gone with the Wind, and it was a dispute over land. And I thought, dude, that's a really interesting opener. So I like that.
And try to set the tone of everything from the very beginning.
Yeah. He was skilled, man. I was really impressed. So that was fun.
Dope, man. Hey, yeah, so we usually wrap these up like right about the hour mark, man. But is there anything you want to cover or talk about right before we head out? We got time if you got time. I feel like there's just so much. I know you have so much information inside that head of yours. I feel like we didn't wring out enough of it.
Yeah. I don't know what's relevant right now. You know, I mean, I think something that's just important for folks to be aware of and talk about right now is the market changing. You know, I think a lot of people are going to get their butts handed to them, and I don't think we are, and I don't say that in a cocky way, but I think the reason I say that is because we're paying attention, we're preserving capital. Every day we're looking at what's happening. We're trying to be thoughtful, make decisions based on that. And that doesn't mean we're scared or fearful. You know, we're working our way in through stuff, but we're watching and paying attention the whole way. So when things change, we've got exit strategies, we've got backup plans, and we should be able to catch it as quickly as things start to change. We should be really, really ready for that. So that's something I want to bring awareness to everybody. And I don't want to be, I got one guy in my office who's Mr. Negative Nancy, sending the fucking stock crash. I mean, all the negative news articles about the stock market in the morning. And then I got one guy who's the most positive, like almost to a fault point in the world. I'm more in the middle. I'm like, yes, I know stuff's going to be crazy out there. I know things are looking kind of bad in some ways, but I'm also not going to be stupid and just blindly go one direction. Kind of in the middle, and I'm watching it. And that's why I think we're going to do really well in a time like this. But a large part of people get hurt. They're heavily extended. They didn't plan well, or they just blindly led themselves into 6 deals and didn't have a backup plan or something like that.
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to start to talk about a little bit more. Having those types of conversations is like, what's happened next? Because this is my first recession. Right? I've never been through one. Last time I wasn't in real estate, I was in construction. I didn't feel it. You know, I stayed busy as ever. I am trying to prepare myself and of course our peers and friends to like what to do next. So I guess if you're sticking a little bit closer to wholesaling, you're not quite buying in the buying phase of your career yet. I guess you're pretty safe in that area. Is there something that you would change in that regard? Or are you just trying to buy a little bit deeper? Or
you know what I would tell people too is I see a lot of folks, they leave a job, they're making 40, 50, 60, 80, 100 grand, whatever, good income. They get out here and go do a couple flips or wholesale deals, and they bring in 50, 80, 100 grand in a deal. They do that 2 or 3 times, and they have an incredible year. Good for you. Good job. But that doesn't mean you're going to go reward yourself and buy that gold Rolex for 50 grand or that $100,000 sports car. Not so fast. Times are changing. That might have been great 5 years ago, but times are changing right now. Saving, preparing, watching out for what's coming next, but having those reserves is what's going to get folks through that. I think that's what allows you to continue to build your business in a time that's uncertain. So that's something that I'm really pushing on everybody, all the partners in my office, all the people we JV with, people that I help advise, and kind of mentor on their businesses. I harass the heck out of them. I still barely pay myself a little bit more than my best year as an employee. That's still my salary. Everything else is being reinvested. So you have an idea what some of our numbers look like. It's a very, very big percentage gets reinvested. That's what's allowed the growth, but also the protection. So that's something I like to preach about. I like to remind people to be disciplined. I like to remind people that humans can justify anything. I'm going to reward myself. I've worked so hard. You've worked so hard that you want to put yourself in a riskier financial position. That doesn't add up to me. You work so hard, so you should protect yourself.
Yeah, I'm the same way, man. Like I said, I guess I've made a lot of money in my lifetime as a contractor, and I did spend it all. I mean, I just go out, pay for everybody. I've always been like that. And then now in business and knowing, like, just kind of, I guess, preparing, getting a little bit smarter, starting to buy stuff now. I'm playing a lot of
experience and a wisdom.
Yeah. You see all that money, how fast it comes and goes. Like, you know what? I'm going to start hanging on to some stuff. But yeah, I think I do a lot of that. I do a lot of reinvesting. I do a lot of sidelining cash, putting stuff away. I try not to do anything fancy, like too fancy. I see all these guys flashing online. I can't wait to see where everything's going to be in 12 to 24 months. See how the landscape is.
You brought up a good point. You want to reward yourself? Go get yourself a nice dinner, not a Ferrari.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, we do it. We do it, just a fancy vacation with us. Like, we'll take off to South Padre for a couple of weeks and less Disney and less $50,000 vacations. Like, I see everybody in Cabo at the beach. I'm like, I wonder if those pictures are still going to be there 18 months from now.
Right. One more thing I'll tell you before we get off is I've kind of stayed away from the real estate education stuff, but folks have been hammering me for years to share more. This last year, I finally decided if I can get 100, 150 people in a room, I'll do a class. You were there. It was on curative title work. That's the basis for the extreme discounts that I'm getting on this real estate. It's solving some problems, breaking the title chain, several owners, tax liens, it's just countless. You got errors, what do you call it now? There's a word for it, but you've got a bad vesting document or bad affidavit that was just erroneously created, has mistakes in it. You got to resolve some of those docs. Some of the property's landlocked or it's not landlocked, but you have to prove ingress, egress. There are countless judgments and liens you got to strip from the property so that you can actually sell it, make money instead of it being underwater. Countless lists of that kind of stuff. But I did a 7-hour class. I did record it. I do have it online. It's basically the equivalent of $1 of attorney hour. It's $399, but it's basically 7 hours of what has taken me hundreds of thousands of dollars in legal fees in about 10 years to learn. And it's the framework of resolving these assets problems to get the extreme deals. I talk about the business case on how to negotiate these problems with sellers. I've got a couple attorney friends of mine that were involved in it with me. So it's I think it's a really good offering. So I do want to bring that up. I do have that. You can go on my Facebook. There are plenty of places, or I might give you guys a link if y'all can add it in here.
Yeah, heck yeah, I'm sure Daniel could probably pop up that link before we get out of here, man. But what is it called? Is there a website set up for it yet, or we just message you on Facebook to find you and request it?
Yeah, there is. education-re.com, and I can send you the link. I don't know. Can I maybe send it through this?
Yeah, Daniel can post it up here on the chat. He probably disappeared for a little bit. If you give him a minute or two, he'll be right back and he can post it up. Yeah. I'll put it in the private chat up here. You want to text it to me and I'll post it inside of the private chat here, and then Daniel can post it on the it'll be a link that pops up on the screen right now.
Oh yeah, okay, I can do that.
Yeah, man. Yeah. I want to reiterate. I posted this on Facebook the other day. Yeah, but Logan has been in my corner, especially Ryan. I've been in communication with Ryan all the time, and sometimes he's the intermediary between the two of us. But these two gentlemen they've walked me through, like I said, since my very first deal. I just texted Ryan today, asking him for help today. I had some sellers in my office today, and I texted Ryan right away. I called Ryan actually on speakerphone. I'm like, hey, I need some help. So if anybody doesn't know who these gentlemen are, I have people asking me all the time. They're like, man, I can't believe you've only been doing this for 3 years, but it's not me. It's never been me. It's seeking out mentors. It's working with other people that have been doing this a lot longer and somebody like yourself who's an expert, especially in so many different areas. I feel like almost like you're not even a real estate investor. Like you're leaning towards like a data scientist / like attorney. It goes much deeper than to just, signing some title docs and showing somebody a house. So it's like its own business in itself. So if you're offering something, what'd you say it was, $399?
Yeah.
Yeah, I can imagine. I've seen a lot of gurus, posting this stuff for 20 and 25,000. That's what I feel like. I feel like the information that you possess and that you share, openly, because you guys have never denied me. You've never declined me and said, hey, we're just not going to help with that. Everything I've ever reached out to you and asked you for, the information's been there. So if I can't, there's no way to cover it all, right? It would take probably months and months to just cover everything nonstop. So for $400, guys, if you're in this space, if you're in the, in real estate and you're trying to learn and you want to niche down, it sounds like you better get good at it right now with the market changing. Yeah, I'd say make sure you grab this link right here or message Logan. We try to get it pulled up right now, but if not, yeah, make sure you reach out. Grab the information. It's something that you're probably going to have to watch 10 or 20 times, because even me being there at the event, like, dude, I topped off. I was like, crap, I can't learn anymore. So I was hoping there was going to be a recording, so I'll make sure I pick it up right away too. But yeah, guys, check it out. Sure. Definitely. Yeah, you're going to have to get a little bit more savvy. You're going to have to learn a little bit more if you're going to want to stick around in real estate. I promise you, we're going to have this conversation again 6 months from now. We go live again 12 months from now. And half the wholesalers that that are posting every day on Facebook, they're not going to be here anymore. Yeah, they're going to be selling cars, or they're going to be in construction.
Yeah, that could definitely happen. When things change, we're going to see.
Yeah, I noticed even just something simple like in San Antonio when the hail fell, when we had those hailstorms, all of a sudden everybody's a roofer, so
yeah,
you got to be prepared to change with the times. So no Daniel, I guess I don't know if he's coming back or not. I don't know where he went, but hey,
there he is.
You get that link I just sent you?
Hold on, I'll make sure it's in the.
Yeah, so we did you want to tell us what's involved in that curative title class? I can do a brief recap, but you can tell us better. What is everything that people can expect to find in that link when they make that purchase? You went over easements, you went over all kinds of stuff.
Yeah, man. God, I can't remember. I'll have to look at the outline, but we did go over easements. We went over specific performance lawsuits. Some of those aren't necessarily curative title work, but it kind of falls into resolving problems. We talked about landlocked property. I talked about resolving judgments and liens. There's about 10 different kinds of judgment liens we talked about there. We talked about some HOA liens. Those are a little bit more specific and unique. We talked about breaks in the title chain, orphaned and unresolved unresolved estates. Those are some good ones. I had a couple of attorneys spend some time talking about those because there's a lot of technical stuff that needed to be part of that. So there's 2 attorneys there. And then we had some pretty good interviews with folks that are actually really formidable real estate investors. That was something I was excited about. We had some great people there. And what they were adding, I thought was huge because they've got tons of experience. And since this, I would call it discipline, doesn't really have a rule book. It's kind of just a lot of folks figuring out how to do messed up deals. Each person looks at it completely different way. So we had some really impressive operators that had some great advice throughout the presentation as well.
Badass event, dude. Hard to imagine that was your first event.
Yeah, thanks.
Yeah, that was really good, dude. That was amazing. That was a good day.
The show is sponsored by The List Guys. Do you need more leads in your local or virtual market? 1 in 10 small businesses don't invest in any kind of marketing. The List Guys have over 35 plus list types to choose from, and you can mix and match any list or criteria. We also use the skip trace list and provide up to 7 numbers and email addresses. Every list you purchase will be scrubbed against previous purchases. The List Guys are here to save you time. Contact the List Guys today at www.onelistguys.com. That's www.1listguys.com.
So I guess that's it for this one, man. I would love to do this again, but thank you.
Yeah.
We appreciate you coming on here and hanging out with us, spending some time together. I'll keep on sending you deals as they come across my desk. And
look forward to it.
Yeah, look forward to seeing you soon, man. Thank you so much.
All right, dude. I'll see you.
Later, man. Thank you.